$1 is absolutely spectacular. And we can't say thank you enough for supporting each other as we go through this thing called life. But we do sincerely appreciate it. And KFGO, obviously, the great support they give is very thankful for that opportunity on this platform. This is Game On Hockey from the Nillis Law Firm Studios. This is each and every Thursday night. I'm Travis Dunn with my broadcast partner, Scott Taylor, and Polly Alliance running the show back there. We are on YouTube Live, so if you're joining us there, yes, you can indeed see these smiling faces. Text Club number is 35270. Twitter at Travis G. Dunn1 and at S. Taylor Sports if you want to follow us on a weekly basis. Updates of sports stuff and who's going to be on the show. And with that, I introduce my friend, my co-partner and my partner in this endeavor. Hey, Scott, how are you doing?
I am wonderful. This is an outstanding evening for me tonight because I'm getting you twice. I get a Travis Dunn, and then I get a second Travis Dunn. So I'm hearing you twice.
Oh,
and
you are.
Twice as smart as I might have been otherwise. So this double Travis Dunn I'm getting from the studio at KFGO has made me smarter already.
Well, I tell you what. Slower, so this whole thing will work out. We'll work our way through this. This is not brain surgery, as they say. This is radio, and we try to enjoy doing it every week. And we do enjoy it every week, and we're so fortunate.
Oh, yeah, that's going to happen. I have to admit, though, last year I placed a futures bet months earlier and then woke up after the Kentucky Derby and didn't win the Derby. With the horse I bet on at the Derby, I failed to win. Woke up the next day and I had an extra $100 in my account. And I wondered, how did that happen? And I went back through the history and found out that I picked the winner as a futures horse 4 months earlier and then didn't bet him on race day. Now, is that dumb or what? See, that's why I needed the double Travis Dunn to just get smarter. Oh, they expect 7.6 billion now. It may be the largest single day of wagering in the history of mankind. It's at least 7.6. It may get to 8 or 9 billion before it's over. Now that they have legalized online betting in New York State, it has put everything just through the roof. They were 1.6 billion alone in January in New York State. So it's going to be an incredible Sunday in terms of wagering. So my $10 with 4 points on the Bengals is not going to have much of an effect on the final outcome.
It's a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me.
Tell me, Dakota, how was your trip?
So I was in Pittsburgh for the top prospects for the North American League. And so, yeah, later the night, while we got there, me and my GM were talking, and yeah, he came up to me and told me that he was going to send me to the Fargo Force. And apparently it had been talked over for a couple months and it was in the works. But yeah, he came up to me and told me that I was going to Fargo and that he thought it was a great opportunity. And, you know, I was open to it because I agreed.
How big a step do you expect it to be from the NA to the USHL?
I think it's going to be a lot faster and a lot more skilled. I've heard that it's a completely different league, but nothing I'm not up for. But yeah, I expect a lot faster, smarter, and more skilled hockey than the NA.
So for those who don't know, you grew up in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Played for the Bruins here. Played for the Warriors, I believe.
Yeah.
At one
That's
point,
right.
go back in your history. Tell us your journey, how you got from starting to play hockey to now becoming a member of the Fargo Force.
So I started out hockey. I kind of got into it because my dad's a beer league goalie. So I always watched him play hockey and always wanted to score on him. So that definitely got me into the sport. But yeah, from a young age, I started playing hockey at 4. And ever since, I never looked back. Fell in love with the game. And as I got older, I was always playing at the top level. And then as I got older, started reaching out and started learning more about the college process. Especially with COVID going on, couldn't really play in the WHL. So my path changed. And yeah, I went to Dubuque's main camp in the summer. And obviously Fairbanks saw me play there. And Trevor Stewart reached out and we got things working and they drafted me on draft night and played there this whole season. It was awesome. And now I'm in Fargo.
The weather's changed much since you've gone from Fairbanks to Fargo.
It's definitely a different kind of cold. If it's negative 30 in Fairbanks, it's negative 30. There's not a lot of wind up there, but yeah, no, it's a lot different. That's for sure. It's a lot warmer.
Well, it is hockey weather, is it not?
Oh yeah, it is. It is such hockey weather. I completely agree with that.
Now, had you planned to go the WHL route before you made the decision to maybe go to the United States and go to college?
Yeah, when I was younger, that was definitely me and my family's goal. It was nice and close to home, and it was the only route we really knew growing up. So my intentions were to go the WHL route, but yeah, no, I'm so happy it worked out this way. I think it's going to be awesome.
When did you commit to Maine?
I committed to Maine on January 14th, so a couple weeks ago.
So that's kind of a brand new decision.
Yeah, it is.
So what was it about Maine that you liked?
They've always been a powerhouse school, great program. I fell in love with the coaches since day one. They reached out. They were one of the first schools to reach out to me. I believe it was in October. And ever since then, they've had faith in me. They've trusted my process. There's unspoken trust in between us. And I felt real comfortable going there, especially with all the great facilities. And me and Ben Barr really like each other. And they think I have a great future with their program. So I thought it was an easy peasy decision.
Well, you've got an assistant coach out of Manitoba who certainly likes Manitoba players with Alfie Michaud. So you're going to probably get an opportunity to play right away.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's awesome, especially with that connection with Alfie. Me and him spoke a couple times, and I was talking about my commitment. And yeah, he loved the opportunity to be able to coach a Manitoba boy, and I love to have a Manitoba coach.
Well, he had Brady Keeper and sent him to the National Hockey League, so obviously you're going into a good program.
Exactly. That's another reason I chose Maine. I've seen they've had great NHL players who've gone through their program, so another reason I wanted to go there.
Now, tell us about Fargo. Have you talked to the coaches? Have you talked to Kerry Eads? Have you talked to the folks there? What do you expect your role to be in Fargo?
I expect my role to start lower, but I'm going to prove myself and work my way up the lineup. More of a power forward myself. I like to use my speed and my size, and they brought me on as a heavy body to grinding the corners and also score the puck. So I think my role will start a little bit lower, but I'm more than happy to work my way up the lineup.
How big are you now? 6'2", 6'3"?
6'2", yeah.
190, 200?
194, yeah.
Wow, so yeah, you're a big body in front.
Yeah.
You'd be able to move Travis Dunn out of the way back in the day. How excited are you about your opportunity?
I'm so excited. I feel like it's going to be great for me and my family being close to home, and it's a great program. And yeah, I couldn't be any happier. So we thought it would be easiest when I was making my decision to go to Fairbanks to try and find a school that was online back in Manitoba. So I started my, it's called Manitoba Brightspace. It's in FormNet. So I've been doing a school from online so that it's easy to transfer my papers and everything when I graduate back to my hometown school.
So that's a pretty good way to do it.
I think so too.
So
It
where
was
do you
awesome.
graduate from?
J.H. Bruns Collegiate.
Sure, yeah. And Safe and
Yeah.
Tap.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good for you. That'll be great.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be awesome.
Oh, I'm excited to see how things go. We've had a number of players in the last couple of years go to the USHL and find that their careers just get jump started with Pasternak and Perron and Adam Ingram this year going to Youngstown. It's going to be a great opportunity for Dakota, and we're playing for Alfie Michaud in Maine is going to be a good experience too.
I think so too.
Hey, boys. You guys leave in the morning? Let's play hockey out there. I'll talk to you about that. That's it, you guys.
Rod Collins, how are things going at Pilot Mound? Are you still putting more players into the OCN Blizzard program of the MJHL?
Well, we have a few there, obviously, and we got some kids out of the north that I'm expecting will return there after they graduate. And that's our goal, obviously, is get them into junior hockey.
Now, when you're recruiting, and we've had all of the coaches on a number of times all season long, and every time they defer to Rod, they said, well, we're spending our time coaching. We're not doing a lot of recruiting. How is the recruiting going for next year?
Well, when we get off here, I have 3 calls, 1 from Quebec, 2 from the States. So I would say that it's going pretty well at this time of the year. I'm kind of reaching out and talking with the coaches on maybe hiring somebody to give me some assistance there as a head scout and assistant GM. So I'll put that out on the air here now. But no, I have a lot of contacts, and I use those. This past year was fairly tough. I had a lot of kids lined up that due to vaccine reasons or COVID reasons didn't come. So that was a bit of a struggle for us, but we got our numbers. And right beside me outside this hall here right now, we're working day and night putting up this new facility with the dorms and the new dining area and lounge and balcony, and it's going to be quite impressive. Well, I honestly, I'd say no, but we worked hard to increase our teams, and this year we've been granted a U18 prep team to go along with our other U17 boys and U15 boys and U18 girls. So we are going to continue to expand, and you know what? I guess the answer is no. I wouldn't expect it to happen this quickly, but we are getting there in our 6 or 7 short years.
I mean, it's remarkable on one hand for the number of teams you have now, but also this construction for the building. I mean, this is going to be just a spectacular place for kids to come and play hockey.
Well, that's what we want. We want it comfortable, and you know, we managed with these portable dorms and dining and so on so far. But it's quite a design where all the lounge area is up top, and it's all open down to the viewing down to the dining area. We'll put in the basement area a shooting area and our weight room down there as well. So it's going to be a very spectacular facility, and whether I don't sure you make kids buy nice buildings, but it will be a nice place for them to live and work.
Well, I think it does help when kids can come and see that Pilot Mound is getting bigger and better for them than coming to a very, very small town where people understand it's a small town, and maybe they don't have the facilities of a Winnipeg or a Brandon or a Regina or Notre Dame, some of these historically big prep schools, but then they can come to Pilot Mound now and see that it's a pretty first-class operation.
Yeah, and you know, we want to make it that way. You know, I think when you come into this town and see this building here, once we're done, we're on the 2nd floor now and going for the rafters here right away. you're going to see quite a spectacular building, along with our arena and our locker rooms,
Mhm.
and our school. They're all a good fit here, and they're all very close. So I think we've got the right plan in place and a very comfortable place to work and learn for these student athletes, and it'll save me driving around so many miles picking up kids. I haven't seen one yet. But to be honest with you, this year we're pretty average, but we've got a great bunch of kids, and that's more important to me right now than anything. I mean, we never have discipline issues, and they're always on time, and they're well mannered. And in this family atmosphere, our cooks know every kid's name, and they thank them with every meal, and we're complimented on our behavior on the road, and we never have issues at school. So these are all very, very important things to us right now. And I hope I'm recruiting the same type of kid for next year. Okay, thanks for having me.
I think it's really interesting. First of all, St. Louis, even now as a retired player, might be the best player in the Canadiens organization. He is probably the best player that the Canadiens have. What a disaster in Montreal. Truly a disaster. A team that went as far as it did last year, a team that looked real good in the playoffs last year, and it just completely fell apart in the offseason. The coaching hasn't helped. The goaltending hasn't helped. Losing Carey Price really hurt them. It's a mess in Montreal. But the most interesting deal I thought today was Dave Tippett losing his job. People expected it to happen. He had decided to keep going with Mike Smith as his goaltender. But Edmonton's not far out of the playoffs. Edmonton has Connor McDavid and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Although, when you stop and think about it, as great a player as Connor McDavid is, and he is truly one of the greats of the National Hockey League, he's had 4 coaches in 3 seasons. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, over his 11 seasons, has had 12 coaches. You got to wonder about Edmonton. Either they're firing coaches way too often and not building any kind of continuity, or they got a whole bunch of guys who get coaches fired on that team. One of those two things is happening. Yeah, maybe. I didn't believe he was going to get axed last week. As this week went on, and they got beat 4-0 by Vegas. I mean, you lose 4-0 to Vegas, and the next night Vegas gets beat 6-0 in Calgary. Ken Holland is going to make a move, and he's not a guy who's normally the type who fires coaches in mid-season, at least not based on his track record. But he did it today. He pulled the plug. Well, that's it. He's the guy's got to go and find a goalie. They better find one soon. There are teams in the league that have second and third goalies that have been better than the starting goalie in Edmonton. I really need to find a winner, and I've seen most of the horses in the top 6 or 7 of the futures, and I'm not in love with any of them. I like them. I'm not in love. I need your tips, Kevin. Who's going to win the Derby?
Well, it's too early. That's the bottom line. We've got a lot of time and a lot of prep races before we get into the real nut cutting of finding a Kentucky Derby winner. You don't want to look for Bob Baffert. Unfortunately, with what he's going through, he's got a bunch of really good youngsters out on the West Coast. They continue to dominate. We had another one named Messier last week that looked awesome winning. unless they change Barnes and go under a different trainer's name, you might not want to be locking in on a Derby staple known as Bob Baffert. I still think the next month to 6 weeks, we're going to get a much better window into who some of these top contenders are. And for my money, I think it's going to come from the East Coast, because if Baffert dominates the West Coast, the horses that aren't as good as his horses aren't going to be good enough to beat the horses you see on the East Coast. Trainers like Todd Pletcher and Brad Cox will have plenty of big time players to bring to Louisville in the first Saturday in May. Tell us about Ken McPeak. People like Smile Happy. They like Rattle and Roll. What are your thoughts? McPeak's a trainer that always seems to find horses that are bred for a distance of ground. So I like that. Run Happy, of course, the sire of the first horse you mentioned. That horse was brilliant at a 1 mile distance, at a 7 furlong distance, at a 1.25 miles. We're still yet to really know if that horse is going to have the pedigree to have his offspring go that classic distance. But I like what I've seen early on, and I'm a huge fan of Kenny McPeak. He's one of those, trainers you don't think about when you think of Breeders' Cup or Triple Crown races right off the top of your head. But he's as honest as the day is long. He's in the game for the right reasons, and he'd be a guy that I can support winning a Kentucky Derby, because he's put so many horses in the gate over the years at Churchill Downs at all levels. Todd Pletcher right now. I thought Winnipeg was awesome. We did the game the other night, and I was super impressed with what the Jets put out there. They played their absolute A game, starting with Connor Hellebuck, working through that lineup. They were the more desperate team, and both teams had to shake off the rust that the All-Star break provided, and Winnipeg seemed to handle that a lot better. And no excuses. They earned that win. They were the better team that particular night, and I don't think it was a big surprise. Minnesota had that remarkable comeback in their home opener. And then they came back and thumped them 7-1 on Black Friday. So you knew the Jets had this date circle on the calendar. I'm excited to see the rematch next week. Foligno will be back after his 2-game suspension, which I'm sure we'll get into. But for the Wild, I'm not one bit worried. I love the way this team has played here in the first half. I love the potential they have to be not only a playoff team, but a team that can make a run at a cup. And I think that, right now, that one game probably be a good wake-up call for them, knowing that they're playing a really good team in Carolina this weekend.
I agree with you. I think that's a team that can not just run at it, but win the Stanley Cup. Who do you run with in goal? Who's your goaltender?
Great question. I love the fact that you've got Kaapo Kähkönen right now playing as well as he is, because that's going to push Cam Talbot to be better. And I think Talbot's been very good. He was in the All-Star game for a reason. I think Talbot's the number one, and I think Kähkönen is the 1A. And what I mean by that is you're going to play your final 40 games in 77 nights, and you're going to need to rely on both guys. So I think they're both going to play close to 20 games. I think it's going to be a fairly close to even split, barring COVID or an injury or something. I think you're going to probably see Talbot play 23, 24 games, see Kähkönen play 16, 17 games down the stretch. And then, the option for Dean Evason and this coaching staff is going to be, let's say you draw St. Louis or Nashville in the first round of the playoffs, and let's say Talbot wins games 1 and 2 and looks great doing it. Then they go down on the road, and let's say they play a game at Nashville or St. Louis and they get beat 5-1. You can come back with Kähkönen and have that confidence, because, the one thing you've learned this year is he's a better goalie than he was last year. And I think he learned from that slide he had second half of the season. And so right now he's got the final, half of the year to prove that was not who he is. And for Cam Talbot, I think the fact that Kähkönen's played so well, it'll push him to greater heights in the second half as well.
Do you buy into the theory that goaltenders tend to get better when the players in front of them are better? I think this is as solid a defense as I've seen in a long time.
Well, if you look at Talbot's numbers in Edmonton and compare them to what he's had here in Minnesota, your point is quite valid. Goaltenders seem to go the wrong way when they play in Edmonton. And Edmonton has tremendous talent, especially up front. They don't play great defense. The high danger chances that they give up, if you look at the analytics of the game, which is kind of where all professional sports are going, they give up much much more dangerous scoring chances than this Wild team is. This Wild team is built from the back end out. They've got a mobile, aggressive, good set of defensemen. And I've talked with both Talbot and Kakinen about this the last couple of years about playing in front of this defense. And they both have said how much easier it is when you've got a group that not only takes care of the second and third looks, but gives you the right looks on the first shot. They don't give up those danger chances right high in the slot or around the blue paint. They force players to the outside. They do that with speed and with skill. And so, yeah, I think there's something to that for sure. It's not going to take away from the way these guys have played. They've both played really well. But I think in this system with this group of defensemen and a group of forwards that also play really hard in both ends, I think it matters. Yeah, it's a quiet confidence. They're not real brash about it. They're not real cocky. When you see these guys, they're pretty down to earth bunch. But you see it in the way they've played this year. You know, and you've watched this team play in certain games. I point to that game against Ovechkin and the Capitals where they had 9 regulars out. They rose to the occasion. I point to a win in Boston in Matt Boldy's NHL debut. I point to wins against Tampa Bay on home ice, quality teams where they have kind of stepped their game up. They have this confidence about them where they believe they're one of the elite teams in the league. And I think it starts with the general manager, Bill Guerin, the tone that he has set for this organization. There's been a dramatic change in that position. And I think it's filtered through the coaching staff. And then just watching the way the leaders in this room, and when I say leaders, I'm not just talking about Spurgeon, Dumba, and Foligno. Matt Zuccarello has a much bigger voice this year. Joel Eriksson-Ek is a guy that leads, especially by example in practice with how hard he works. The leadership group of this hockey team has an expectation. So when these young guys come in, it isn't just fit in and try not to get beat. It's fit in and we're here to win, boys. We're not here just to go out there and play. We're here to win. And I think you've seen some of these young players kind of pick up that baton and run with it. Look at the way Boldy's played. Look at the way Connor Dewar's played and Duhaime. These young guys have stepped in and they've done more than just fill a void. They've played at a high level. And I think that the leaders have kind of set that tone.
What does Dean Evison have to do with that?
The calming influence that he is. There's no panic to him as a head coach. If you watch this guy on a daily basis, everything is methodical and it's thoughtful. And he incorporates he asks the team to be inclusive and to have everybody have a voice. And he's the same way with his coaching staff. And I know it was symbolic when Bill Guerin gave him that extension, that he waited until the assistant coaches got the same extension. But it's more than just that. Like when you talk to Dean Evison, when he does a press conference, and we had that big comeback against Winnipeg in the home opener, he talks about the assistant coaches like Jonas Plum that run our video department that made that decision to challenge the goal. When Darby Hendrickson is working with somebody specifically on the power play or on faceoffs, he singles that coach out for the work that he has done. He doesn't look to take the credit. And then around the team, it's just a very calm, quiet, confident guy. And so when they have a bad period like they did in Madison Square Garden a couple of weeks ago, during the Lundqvist celebration, he didn't come in the room and say a word. Matt Zuccarello took over the room. And he talked about that in the post-game presser when they said, hey, you must have really shook the paint off the wall in that first intermission. He said, no, I didn't come in and say a word. It was Matt Zuccarello. So he gives credit to the other either coaches or players that help this team. And I think the players really respect that. Yeah, we saw Beckman come in during training camp, score a couple of goals in a preseason game. Marco Rossi is going to be a big-time player for this organization. He's going to be the center of the future. You look at that spot right now being held by Freddie Gaudreau. At some point, you have to feel like Rossi is that guy. And then you think of Kalen Addison. And, you know, when he gets called up, the offensive skill that he's shown, he looks like another version of Jared Spurgeon. So, yeah, you're right. I've been doing this since 2006, guys, and I've yet to see a team this good on the ice, and I've yet to feel this good about the future of the Minnesota Wild. And this was a critical time for them. The Suter and Parise thing cannot be understated. Those were great players, hardworking guys. Great to have them in this organization. If you were going to make that move and you're Bill Guerin, you better know that some young guys can fill the void, because the young guys are the ones that can be on those entry-level contracts that can really relieve some of that salary cap pressure. And so that's the roll of the dice that Bill Guerin had to make. And he did so because of your point, because of the young talent in the next couple of years that's going to make their way to St. Paul. We're seeing it right now with Duham and Dewar and Boldy. And I think you're going to see it with the two guys I mentioned and maybe a guy like Beckman next year, because it's going to get tougher and tougher. So you need team-friendly deals for Hartman. You need a team-friendly deal for Jordan Greenway that you guys brought up. These are the type of deals that are going to allow you to keep a lot of these players here. And it was always going to be a challenge unless you had younger players step in.
My old buddy,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Derby. We're already counting down to that. And with this Wild season, I think we're going to be playing Wild hockey during that Derby festivity, if not all the way through the Triple Crown. Remember, the regular season goes to the end of April. So we're going to be in the first round of the playoffs during the Derby, second round of the playoffs during the Preakness. And if the Wild keep going, I could see either a conference final or a Stanley Cup button up against the Belmont Stakes. So the Wild could, take us right through the Triple Crown. Wouldn't that be something?
be something that doesn't happen very well.
Fun to be on, guys. Have a great night.
Thanks, Kevin.
Take care, guys.
Get 'em on sick, get on
well, he was about 14 or 15, playing Bantam, and he was kind of the talk of the town. He was the big scorer up here. It was obvious he was going to have a future as a doing anything he wanted to do, and chose to go the route to the University of North Dakota, as opposed to trying to play in the Western Hockey League. He was one of the early guys to do that. After that situation arose where you couldn't play both, and he made the right decision, obviously, because he got an NHL career out of it and ended up in Florida as a pilot and has had a pretty great life. So it'll be interesting to talk to Bobby. I haven't talked to Bob probably in 15 years, so it's going to be nice to have an opportunity to talk to him next week. But I really appreciate Kevin Gorg. I appreciate what he said tonight about the way the Jets played that hockey game. That was a team that had 7 or 8 regulars out of the lineup. They had a number of Manitoba Moose players in the lineup. They had guys that don't get a lot of ice time, and they really stepped up and played a pretty tremendous hockey game. And it says a lot about the way the Jets are right now. This is a team that is going to have to depend a lot on their Manitoba Moose players, on guys that you know well, like Austin Pagansky. And those are the guys that are going to have to step up for this team if they're going to make the playoffs. If they're going to make the playoffs, I will stick to my guns and say they got to win at some point, like run off a 10 in a row streak. That's the only way this team's going to get in, and they're going to have to do it with guys like Austin Pagansky in the future. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to them. Well, it's all about depth. You've never been able to really win, really carry on through the playoffs without depth in your lineup. And the Jets are proving to themselves that they might have had more depth than they thought. If there was one major criticism of Paul Maurice as head coach, it's that he didn't go to his young guys enough. Now Dave Lowry's going to those young guys and finding out that people like Poganski, Johnny Kovacevic, they can play hockey. They're not bad. Ville Heinola, they deserve to be in the National Hockey League. Cole Perfetti, the 20-year-old or 19-year-old, it's going to be very, very important that these guys play as well as they did the other night against Minnesota as this season goes along, if they intend to make the playoffs. And you're right, it's all about depth, and they need it now. I agree with Kevin. It starts with Guerin. It goes through Dean Evison, and I've known Dean Evison a long, long time, and believe he is one of the best coaches in the National Hockey League and has been for a long, long time, even as an assistant. So it goes through them, but it goes through the decision Guerin made. They had to get younger. They knew they had to get younger. They knew they'd have to give up last year to be younger and better this year. Well, boy, Kirill Kaprizov has turned out to be the player they thought he was. Matt Dumba has turned out to be the player they protected him for. This is a team with a lot of really good parts. It's tough up front. It's tough on the back end. And the goaltending is better than anybody would have expected. Nobody thought Cam Talbot would be a lot better than he was in Edmonton. He has been, and Kakkonen has been superb. This is a team that can go a long way. And when I said to Kevin, I think that they're a Stanley Cup contender, I really think they're one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the NHL. Well, I truly would have thought it was because people knew your handicap, and if you bought your clubs there, then the only way to be as good as Travis Dunn is to purchase the club from the golf center. I mean, that's what my response to that would have been.